You wanna know how to improve your art, and you wanna know how to do it fast. I have the perfect tip for you, and if you don't believe me, look at the improvement that I managed to achieve in 6 months. Hi, I'm eikirains, and I wished I knew about this art exercise 4 years ago when I started studying art. The magic exercise is form studies. Have you ever heard of them? If not, don't worry my fellow artists, because in this video, I will show you how to bring your art to the next level. When I talk about form studies, you can think about those videos from art teachers like Mark Brunet or Proco, where they teach you form exercises, but I'm talking about something a little more complex. With these types of form studies, an artist can improve not just the understanding of form and 3D space, but also value and lighting, perspective, composition, and even anatomy from one exercise. It's definitely one of the most important exercises you will ever learn. I only learned about them when I was scrolling through YouTube and I found a video from Artpractice about form studies. I fortunately clicked on it, and the amount of knowledge I learned from that video changed my art forever. And I want you guys to have the same experience. But before I teach you guys how to do form studies, let's remember the art fundamentals. And if you've known them, don't jump this part. You know, everyone loves recaps, right?
Rewind time.
I'm not just saying that so you can improve my watch time on YouTube. Not at all. Anyway, form. It defines anything with volume. It's essential to obtain a more critical view of the world and start to see your canvas in 3D rather than 2D. Perspective. It's the ability to represent a 3-dimensional scene in a 2-dimensional media. Anatomy. It's self-explanatory. Every artist had studied anatomy at least once. Some people say that it's not important, but I strongly disagree. Understanding anatomy is essential, even if your art style is not realistic. Composition. Speaking in a more simple way, it's the ability to arrange the elements of your art in a more harmonious and interesting way. This shit can get really complex, and I'm not the best to explain that since my art is quite boring, but I will say that if you wanted to have a more interesting art, you should definitely learn composition and how it can improve your art. And finally, value and lighting. Forms, value and lighting are best friends. Learning values and how to properly use the light will drastically improve your understanding of form. Form studies is definitely one of the most efficient art exercises because you can practice all those essential art fundamentals with one exercise. You can learn form, lighting, and value by handling those forms studies. Perspective, because you're constantly painting those geometric forms in 3D space. Anatomy indirectly, because it's super easy to simplify part of the body in forms, and knowing how a cylinder or a square interacts with the light will greatly improve your understanding of anatomy. You will technically also learn composition, but that's a stretch because you can make a form study compositionally appealing, but that's not the main reason for a form study. The main focus here is understanding form, lighting, value, and anatomy. Now that we understand a little more about the fundamentals, we can jump to the point of the video. How to do form studies. So, to get started, the only brush you need will be a square brush. A square brush will make things easier and faster. In case you don't have one like that, you can go in the link in the description. You will find a pack of brushes from Jim Scott that contains some square brush. Okay, so the first thing we are doing is deciding a light direction. I'm gonna say that the light is coming from this direction, and now that we have a light direction, we can pick the polyline tool and start to construct our shapes. Since this face of the rectangle is looking up in the direction of the light, I'm raising the value, and now all we are doing is determine the values of the other face of the form, always having in mind the light intensity and direction that we picked previously. For example, if this face right here is the brightest, there's no way that this other one right here is brighter than the one that is literally looking in the direction of the light. Something that can help you guys is using dark and lighting blending modes. Lighting only affects the values that are darker than the one you picked, and darken only affects the values that are lighter than the one you you picked. Correcting values can be way easier when you use these blending modes. In case you don't have the blending modes activated, you can turn them on by clicking the brush of your choice, clicking here, here, and checking this ink box. You can also do it freely without relying that much on the polygonal tool. Doing this way will make it harder to control the edges of your forms, but it can teach you edge control, for example. Freehanding is also faster than using the polygonal tool. What I recommend you guys is, if you are a beginner, to go to the polygonal tool first, but you should definitely try freehanding it later. Think about it as in increasing the difficulty to get more rewards. When you get comfortable with painting the simple form, you can jump for something a little more complex, like rocks, for example. You can search for rocky images on Pinterest or Google for inspiration. Now that we know the techniques we are going to use to study forms, we can fill an entire canvas with those motherfuckers. Just keep filling the canvas with random forms. And don't forget to use the blending modes to quickly correct your values. While I'm painting, I'm always remembering myself about the light direction. Don't forget about the light direction, guys. A good thing to do is focusing on squarish cylindrical forms. Learning how to render them will be extremely useful for your painting skills. As I said before, everything can be reduced to simple forms, so learning how to properly paint them will be game changing. This exercise is also amazing if you're stuck in an art block or a creative block. Doing these exercises doesn't really take creativity because you're just drawing forms, so it's a good exercise for this moment. By the way, try to not bring too much contrast unless it makes sense, like in a situation where there is hard light, for example. A hard light will always bring more contrast than a soft light, so in that case, bringing more contrast is essential to represent that. Also, you should have atmospheric perspective in mind. Objects that are far away will have a lighter value, so you should definitely pay attention to that. It can look like a complicated exercise, but it's definitely not. I'm sure that when you try it for yourself, you will see that it's not that hard. So yeah, draw a bunch of them. Don't draw just one. I'm talking about like 20, actually even more than that, but 20 is a good start. It can sound like a lot, but in the end, it will definitely pay off. So yeah, do 10 of them, 20, 30. It's totally up to you, but just know that the more the better. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I really hope you learned something new with me. Please leave a like to support me, and I see you in the next video if I don't fucking explode or something like that.